is here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Nighthawk Sports Network here in Dahlonega, Georgia at Haynes and Carolyn Hill Stadium at Lynn Cottrell Park for the 2024 NCAA Southeast Regional number 2 tournament. The Nighthawks, the second seed in the region, and the second host. Wingate, the top seed. They are hosting up there in North Carolina earlier today. So here in Dahlonega, the Nighthawks taking on 7th-seeded Flagler Saints, a Peach Belt Conference foe they are all too familiar with. 5 matchups already between these teams in the regular season. The 3rd seed here in Southeast Region number 2 is Francis Marion out of the conference. Carolina's the winner there. And the 6th seed, Columbus State, who was just here last weekend, winning the Peach Belt tournament over these Nighthawks. They will face Francis Marion coming up later today at 7:30. A little bit delayed today because of some rain in the area, and that has been the story all across the state of Georgia these last few weeks. So we are ready to go here in game number 1 of the Southeast Regional Tournament. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Brendan Shabath. Alongside me is Robert DiClemente. And Tybee Denton, the senior pitcher for the Nighthawks, gets things started, and she gets a ground ball right to Gracie Mixon. Sydney Stewart, the shortstop, is out on the play, and we are underway. That'll bring up Emily Ritchie, the catcher. Robert, these two teams have seen a lot of each other. As we mentioned, 5 games already. Flagler just 1 win in those 5 games. It was the very first game they played here in Dahlonega way back in March in a 3-game regular season series. In the Peach Belt tournament, this was the second matchup for both of these teams. Flagler was seeded 4th, the Nighthawks the top seed, winning that game over the Saints.
Yeah, the Nighthawks very familiar with this Flagler team. 5 times faced off this season, more than any other opponent this year. Ever since the Saints came to Dahlonega to steal that game from North Georgia in the regular season, Nighthawks have gone 4-0 against this squad since then, with 2 run rule wins taking them down on the big stage in the Peach Belt Conference tournament. But everything is reset now for them. It's first of 3 wins this weekend. Flagler has beaten North Georgia on their home turf. Not a lot of teams can say that. So on a new stage with new stakes, should be in for a fun weekend.
Ritchie pops it foul on the 1-1 to make it 1 ball and 2 strikes. Flagler, their first NCAA tournament appearance since 2012. It's been a dozen years since the Saints were playing this late into the season. Back in that 2012 year, they went to the national championships after a fantastic season. This is just their 3rd overall tournament appearance. It's a team who has not been Division II for very long, but an athletic department and program that has succeeded in many ranks. They were very good in those early 2010 years. It's just been a while since they've been back to postseason play, but Catherine Grant, their head coach, 34 wins for them, also their most since 2012. She was the co-PBC Coach of the Year with the guy on the other side today in Mike Davenport for the Nighthawks.
Yeah, the Saints are absolutely making history this season in the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2012. Most wins since 2017. Got that co-coach of the year, like you just said, Catherine Grant. And Flagler, they may be playing with house money right now, but they're not satisfied. Still looking to make some real noise in this NCAA tournament.
A reminder that this NCAA tournament, all of it, and starting with the regional, is double elimination. So the winner of today's game, well, they'll both play tomorrow, but the winner of today's game plays tomorrow as scheduled right now at 12 noon. There's a full count walk. Emily Ritchie, a nice long at bat. She's the first base runner today. Brings up Hannah Smith.
Number 11, Hannah Smith.
Yeah, Flagler, they've operated with a pretty shortened roster this season. 6 players having over 160 at-bats this year for the Saints. Really have around 9 players that have really carried this batting load for them, and it's worked well.
First pitch, outside, ball 1 to Hannah Smith. Smith, the only lefty in the lineup today for Catherine Grant. For both of these teams, the lineups that you see here today is pretty much what we've seen all season for each of them, particularly in the last few matchups. And after a walk and a first pitch ball to Hannah Smith, assistant coach Aaliyah Medina pops out of the dugout to have a meeting in the circle with Tybee Denton and Georgia Blair. So as we said, the winner in this game plays at noon tomorrow against the winner of the 7:30 game between Francis Marion and Columbus State. Here in Game 1, the loser will play at 2:30 against Game 2's loser. And then there's an elimination game already tomorrow at 5 o'clock between the Game 3 loser and the Game 4 winner.
Yeah, North Georgia, they've had their way offensively with Flagler this season, but the X factor has been Tybee Denton and their pitching against the Saints. 4 matchups since March 23rd. They've really dominated them.
Out to left, racing into foul territory is Sydney Blair to make the catch for the second out. Strands the runner over there at first base, and just what Tybee Denton needed after the meeting.
Yeah, that duo of Tybee Denton and Kristen Davis limiting the Saints to just 5 runs ever since that loss to them during the regular season.
Denton against Flagler this year has totaled 17 1/3 innings. She's only given up 5 hits in that span, 1 earned run. The Saints are hitting .089 against her. That one's up above the zone, 1 ball and a strike on Cassidy Crump, the second baseman today.
Yeah, if the Nighthawks want to have a chance to make some noise in this regional tournament, a lot of that's going to come down to the performances in the circle from 2 of the best pitchers in the Peach Belt Conference in Tybee Denton and Kristen Davis.
That's ball 2. Home plate umpire today, Mike Lett. Steve Winter is over at first, and Dwayne Shoemate over at third base. Currently standing at second base with Emily Ritchie on at first. Swing and a miss on the 2-1 half cut from Crump, who's hitting .290 on the year, 11 home runs. She's tied with Mackenzie Smith for the team lead in a Flagler team that can hit the ball out of the yard with the best of them. 2-2, fluttered in the air, no man's land. Mixon races in to make the catch right along the foul line in front of her pitcher, Tybee Denton. The walk does no harm. 4 batters, 3 outs in the top of the first for Flagler. We're underway in the 2024 NCAA tournament here in Dahlonega. The Nighthawks will bat for the first time this postseason after the break here on the Nighthawk Sports Network.
We have a long tradition of athletics at the University of North Georgia. For the past 50 years, our athletic programs have been making a difference for our university. And today I'm really excited to talk about how we will take that to the next level. When you think about elite athletics, you think about elite performance. Mary Rob, tell me what that means to you.
So elite performance at the University of North Georgia is unique because we have a value proposition unlike anybody else in this country, where we're able to perform at the highest level because of our connections with our Corps of Cadets and our College of Health Sciences and Professions, coupled with our professionals from coaches, athletic trainers, support staff in our Department of Athletics. But we're preparing our student athletes to battle on the field of competition, in the classroom, and in our community. We'll be elite in everything we do.
So today we are really excited to announce our strategic bet, where we are going to deliver elite performance, elite competition, and the most value-adding Division II athletic program in America. Go Nighthawks.
Juan.
Back here in Dahlonega, 2024 NCAA softball tournament. Nighthawks batting for the first time with Katie Ward, Sydney Blair, and Georgia Blair at the dish. It'll start with Ward. The first pitch from Rachel Hester, junior out of Navarre, Florida, is ball 1. There's a strike from Hester, who has a 7.88 ERA against the Nighthawks this season. That's only in 5 1/3 innings. It's the lowest amount of work against UNG of the 4 Flagler pitchers this season. And this is interesting because, Robert, you and I in the PBC tournament were doing that Flagler North Georgia game, and I think it's easy, as most people would. You say, okay, Flagler beat North Georgia in the regular season, one of 3 PBC teams to do that. You'd imagine they would start the only pitcher to pick up that win, which was Jordan Sheets. Catherine Grant didn't do that in a PBC tournament, and again, she doesn't do it here again today. Although it's double elimination, your season is on the line. There's some finality here. Surprised to see her go with Rachel Hester.
Yeah,
And
Rachel.
we'll see how it works out.
This season, she has kept her strikeouts high and her walks low. You like to see the ratio, 100 strikeouts just to 46 walks this season for Hester. And she did some damage in the PBC tournament against some other teams.
Ward deep in the hole at short, and she beats it out at the bag. A tough play from Sydney Stewart. Katie Ward just placed it perfectly in the infield. And a leadoff runner for the Nighthawks.
Now batting the left fielder, number 12.
Yeah, Ward taking over in that leadoff spot ever since Jolie Lester went down a couple of months ago, and she has absolutely earned that spot. And in her regional debut, makes a splash getting on base.
So now Sydney Blair pops up a bunt foul, and it goes over the head of a charging Mackenzie Smith. So Blair a little bit lucky on that first bunt attempt, trying to move the runner over, and it's pretty standard practice. If Katie Ward gets on, Blair's going to bunt because Georgia Blair, no relation, is up next. The best hitter for the Nighthawks. Blair pulls it back on ball 1, so it's 1-1. Going back to Rachel Hester, we mentioned a near 8 ERA against the Nighthawks this year. On the season total, she's got a 3.59 earned run average, which is second only to Madeline Wise on her team. The 1-1 dropped down perfectly down the third base line. Smith fires over to first for the out. Sydney Blair does her job to perfection. Katie Ward's now in scoring position for Georgia Blair.
Yeah, this is a play that we've seen all season long from North Georgia. You get your leadoff batter, whether that's been, Jolie Lester, it's been Mariah Wicker at times. This time, Katie Ward, now on second, puts a runner in scoring position for one of the best batters in not just the Peach Ball Conference, but you could argue the nation in Georgia Blair.
First pitch. Blair takes ball 1 on the outside. Georgia, as announced today by the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association, 1 of 5 all Southeast region selections for the Nighthawks today, and it came as no surprise. Been the best hitter in the PBC, arguably, and like you said, Robert, one of the best in the region and in the country. 17 home runs for her on the year. An .813 slug is one of the top marks in the country. Here's the 1-1. Swing and a miss. Good pitch on the outside, darting away. As Hester's in front of Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia's been racking up the accolades. PBC All-Conference first-team member, announced a couple weeks ago, earning that now in back-to-back seasons, and an all-region member.
She takes for ball 2. And perhaps the nicest thing for Mike Davenport with Georgia Blair, she's been here every day. 56 games, 56 starts. She had 1 game off, and it wasn't due to injury. This one's to short. Stewart over to first. That's the second out on the ground out, but again, Blair moves the runner over, so Katie Ward 60 feet from scoring with another great hitter and another all-region selection in Mallory Parker.
Yeah, Mallory Parker, she's had a great resurgence here in 2024, missed almost all of last year due to an injury, and she's come back here in 2024, and not only has she, been great, she's been putting up career-high numbers across the board, coming off a year where she was injured.
Parker hitting .373 on the year in the 6 postseason games for UNG already. She's 6 for 14, a double, a triple, a home run, and a team best 7 RBIs. Tips that one into the glove for strike 2, and Rachel Hester is 1 pitch away from stranding the game's first run over at third base. Hester steps back and fires. Changeup on the outside that Parker rolls over on an unassisted ground out to Smith over at first base. So Katie Ward gets all the way to third and doesn't come home before the inning ends. Scoreless first in Dahlonega in the 2024 NCAA softball tournament. Kyler Kinnear, Mackenzie Smith, Riley Konowalchuk, the 5, 6, and 7 hitter scheduled for Flagler here in the second against Tybee Denton. We were talking about the NFCA all-region selections that got announced today across the nation, and in the Southeast region, the Nighthawks had 5, the most of any team in the region, and Tybee Denton, the PBC Pitcher of the Year. No surprise that she was on that list as well.
Yeah, Tybee in her senior season has really broken through and established herself as just one of the best pitchers in the country. When you think of Tybee Denton, 2 words that come to mind are just dominance and winning.
Denton in sort of an unfamiliar spot right now. After what happened last weekend in the PBC tournament. For those that missed it, it's a day that will be remembered for a long time by the Columbus State Cougars, and for at least another year by everybody here at the University of North Georgia. The Nighthawks were 1 out away from their 10th consecutive PBC tournament championship. Kristen Davis had pitched 6 2/3 innings of 1-run ball, and Mike Davenport elected to bring Tybee Denton out of the bullpen to get the final out against Lindsey Patton, a hitter that Denton had dominated the day before in Game 1 of the championship series. As Kinnear waves at the high fastball, Denton gets her first strikeout of the game. And on the first pitch, with 2 runners on and 2 outs, Lindsey Patton tied the game with a 3-run home run to right field. Columbus State went on to win that game. They rode the momentum into the final game of the series, in which Denton started, and they put up 8 runs in an 8-2 win to snap an 11-year drought in the PBC Tournament Championship. And so this is Denton's first time in the circle since that day. And we'll really get to see what she's made of and where the mentality is for UNG's ace right now.
Yeah, North Georgia absolutely suffered a big wake-up call last weekend in the Peach Ball Conference Tournament Championship. They had the tournament championship in their grasp and ripped away from them by Columbus State. Mounted that comeback. It was really reminiscent of what we saw last year during the regular season when Columbus State came to town and stole a couple games from North Georgia. Those two so eerily similar. Very uncharacteristic performance from the Nighthawks and Tybee Denton. So this is going to have to be a big bounce-back performance here from her if she wants to keep the Nighthawks season alive.
And a 4-pitch walk to Mackenzie Smith after her first strikeout. Second walk for Denton today, and that's a conversation that we talked about in the PBC tournament. This team is going to be successful if they can keep traffic off the base paths, but the walks have been arguably the only issue for Tybee Denton this year, but they have been an issue, and they have been persistent. And so far, we've already seen 2 today. First pitch pop up to the left side from Konowalchuk. It does get out of play.
Yeah, sometimes people can be quick to forget about Tybee Denton because she does strike out so many batters, one of the highest marks in Division II softball. But like you said, the walks have definitely been at a mark where she does not want them to be this season, and she's going to have to get some strikeouts here against Flagler in this matchup.
And it's been a pretty consistent trend. We talk about how much Denton has dominated Flagler specifically this season, with the 0.89 batting average for the Saints and just 5 hits allowed in 17-plus innings. She's also given up 14 walks to 16 strikeouts. Floated to left. Blair racing over. She gets behind it and makes the catch. Very similar start to this inning as the last one. Leadoff out, then a walk, and then a foul fly out to the left fielder Sydney Blair for the second out. Brings up Kirsten James, the right fielder, in the 8 hole. In total, Denton this year, 96 walks, 204 strikeouts. Here's the 1-0. James swings and hits it foul. Kirsten James, only 5 at-bats against UNG this year. She does have something that only one other of her teammates has, and that's a home run. It's her only hit against North Georgia this season in 5 games. Perhaps part of the reason she's in the starting lineup today.
Yeah, I believe she came in to pinch hit in that matchup, and in her first plate appearance, hit a home run for the Saints. Tried to mount that comeback to make it to the PBC Conference Tournament Championship. Ultimately fell short to North Georgia.
Swing and a miss, and that's the 3rd out. James's home run came against Kristen Davis in that matchup. So Tybee Denton again, 1 walk, doesn't do any damage. She's out of the 2nd inning. The Nighthawks will bat in it after these words on the Nighthawks Sports Network.
I pledged.
I am an NCAA student athlete.
And I pledge to be a champion of unity
on my team, on my campus, and in my community.
I pledge to embrace differences and strive for inclusion and collaboration.
I pledge to stand against racism, hate, and discrimination.
I pledge to strive for love, care, and forgiveness.
I pledge to stand against silence, deceit, and obscurity.
I pledge to strive for dialogue, truth, and understanding.
I pledge to stand against fear and doubt.
I pledge to strive for trust and belief in one another.
I pledge to stand against complacency and stagnancy.
I pledge to strive for change and growth.
I commit to supporting my fellow student athletes in all circumstances that impact them.
I commit to both choosing unity personally and encouraging it for all.
I pledge these things because we are stronger together.
United as one.
1.
The senior right fielder Madison Simmons leads things off for North Georgia here in the 2nd inning. She takes a first pitch ball, says home plate umpire Mike Lett. Following Simmons will be the sophomore Mary Seal Brumby and the junior designated player Grayson Perry. Pitch a bit inside. Simmons in front, 2 balls and no strikes. She's been very good at the plate as of late. We talked a lot about her in the PBC tournament, her ability to move runners around the base paths and bring home runners. She continued that in the tournament as well in a couple big spots for the Nighthawks.
Yeah, she's been asked to do a lot as of late for North Georgia, and she is coming clutch, providing some veteran leadership to this squad and making some big plays both in right field and when she's been up to bat.
That one's on the ground, foul. In the postseason, she's 6 for 15. 6 hits, 5 RBIs for Simmons. She's also walked 4 times and has yet to strike out. Two-two. This one's on the ground to 3rd. Smith, throw is high. It gets by, and Madison Simmons will reach on the error. Mackenzie Smith sailed the throw over to first.
Now batting number 22, Mary
Yeah, like you said, Madison Simmons yet to strike out in these past couple of weeks, and it's very rare that you see a Nighthawk walking back to the dugout after an at-bat. Puts a runner on first for Brumby.
Brumby takes first pitch outside. The final lefty out of 3 for Mike Davenport in his lineup. It's been Brumby and Katie Ward, the 2 sophomore standouts this year for the Nighthawks. Sydney Blair, also a sophomore as well, that's been in the starting lineup consistently throughout the year. Brumby and Ward, what they've been able to do at the plate, kind of a sophomore tandem, has been really impressive, though. Brumby slices one into center. That's dropping, and it's down. Gets away from the left fielder as well. Both runners trying to advance. Simmons sliding into third. She's safe. Look at the aggressive base running from the Nighthawks. Mike Davenport loves it. That ball just had eyes for the outfield and nothing else.
Yeah, a bit of a miscommunication over there in left field with Kinnear colliding with her teammate, couldn't come up with the play, and now 2 runners in scoring position for the Nighthawks, going to cause a visit in the circle here for Hester.
Off the bat, it looked like Paige Maceda, the center fielder, was going to have an opportunity to make that, and then quickly you could tell the wind and the spin on the ball was slicing it away from Maceda towards the left fielder Kinnear, but also down. Thought it was probably going to drop for a single. Did not expect it to get by, and it just took that sideways bounce, spun off of both of them. As you mentioned, they collided with Kinnear charging in, and that allowed everybody to move up. And now with nobody out, Grayson Perry's at the dish, and she's got 2 in scoring position. Perry, the all-conference selection as announced a couple weeks ago, takes ball 1. Nope, that's a strike on a late call from Mike Lett. Nighthawks with an opportunity to get on the board here early, as they've done so many times this season, to also do it first. Fly ball out into center field. This one's deep. Maceda going back to the wall. She makes the catch. Simmons does not tag. The throw goes to third. And clearly a miscommunication between Mike Davenport and Madison Simmons. That's certainly deep enough for her to score on a sacrifice fly. Instead, it's an out, and nobody moves up on the bases.
Yeah, that's a big play there for the Saints with Maceda coming up with the grab, and like I said, a bit of a miscommunication there. And
now Mixon out into left field. Now Simmons will tag to Kinnear. The throw to the plate's a great one. Simmons is safe. Catherine Grant can't believe it. Emily Ritchie is called for blocking the plate. And fans who are familiar with this matchup will remember that this exact situation, both Simmons and Ritchie, happened earlier this year in the Peach Belt Tournament in their first matchup between these 2 teams. It was a wild play in which Simmons scored first. A throw got away. Brumby was where she is right now, over at third. So she tried to come home. The throw to home beat Brumby, and Ritchie was called for blocking the plate, and Brumby was safe. Here this time, it's Simmons who's called safe on the sacrifice fly, as Ritchie is again called for catcher's interference. Did not allow a path for Simmons, and the Nighthawks score first.
Yeah, that was just a wild sequence of events a couple weekends ago with Brumby scoring, and a little bit of deja vu here for the Saints on that play. And you really want these runs to get up on the board to be decided, not necessarily by calls from the umpire. And again, North Georgia puts a run up on the board after, like you said, catcher was blocking the plate.
Moody out into shallow left and over the head. It scores Brumby. Stewart couldn't get to it. Riley Moody with an RBI single in her first at bat. The shortstop is on the board, and the lineup flips over.
Back up to bat, number 21, Katie Ward.
Brings up Katie Ward. 2 outs in the inning. Ward first pitch rifling down the left field line, foul. Going back to that blocking the plate call by Mike Lett at home plate, the umpire today. I will say that one seemed less of a violation than the one we saw just a week ago in the PBC tournament. Ritchie was square around the plate, maybe just a little bit too far up the third base line. For what it's worth, when Simmons slid, she slid directly into Ritchie and was never going to come close to the plate. You have to leave a lane open. It's such a unique situation. It's a hot topic at all levels of baseball and softball, especially in Major League Baseball as of late. There's been a lot of plays at the plate that have been contested. Ward out into center. Maceda going back a few steps, twisting and turning before she makes the catch to end the inning. But the Nighthawks get on the board first after Emily Ritchie ruled for blocking the plate on a sacrifice fly. Moody brings home another run on an RBI single in Brumby, and they're on the board first, 2-0 here in the Southeast Regional from Dahlonega.
To them, the whole world looks like an opportunity, one to be seized, built upon, and made better for their sport and the people around it. To student athletes, every opportunity is a chance to change what could be and show the world what opportunity can do.
Figure it out. I'll see how much longer I can go. So the Nighthawks with 3 hits, 2 of them coming in the bottom of the second inning. They also get a pair of runs as they are on the board first. Flagler's first chance to respond. Saw Catherine Grant, the head coach for the Saints, livid after that call from home plate umpire Mike Lett that her catcher was blocking the plate, allowing Simmons to score. For what it's worth, also, Simmons should have scored the play before.
Right.
It really should.
Right.
If there was going to be a play at the plate on that at bat, it would have been Brumby. But there's no chance. There's not a guarantee Brumby would have tagged from second to third on Grayson Perry's fly out before, because the throw went to third. So Brumby probably doesn't move up 60 feet, even if Simmons tags on the deep center field fly out from Grayson Perry in the previous at bat. In the end, it all probably worked out how it was supposed to.
Right.
This is Paige Maceda, the center fielder who was busy last inning, and uncharacteristic of how her last 2 weeks have gone, she strikes out on 3 pitches. That's Denton's third strikeout, back-to-back ones as well for the first out. But Maceda, PBC all-tournament team, despite Flagler not making it to the final weekend. She was the only Flagler Saint to be selected. She hit 3 home runs in the tournament.
Yeah, she's been on a tear recently, batting .545 in her last 4 games. Those 3 home runs, like you said, 6 RBIs. She knows this is her last chance to make a deep postseason run.
Floated to the right side, and miscommunication between Simmons and Ward. It gets down in fair territory. Stewart with a ton of speed. She's hustling for third. Look at that. Barely 100 feet from home plate. Sydney Stewart gets a triple. Another ball in no man's land between the second baseman, Katie Ward, and the right fielder, Madison Simmons. It glanced off of Simmons, who was trying to field it in fair territory, over beyond foul territory towards the North Georgia bullpen on the right side over there, and Stewart was hustling out of the box. She hustled around the bases and all the way into deep scoring position over there at third.
Yeah, a couple of miscommunications from the fielding from both of these squads. It's not often that you see, North Georgia or Flagler committing errors when it comes to their fielding. Flagler, the best team in the Peach Belt Conference when it comes to their fielding, and that miscommunication, a big one, puts a runner in scoring position as Flagler tries to climb back in this with Ritchie.
And it's ruled a hit. Deservedly so. This one's popped right to Tybee Denton. Just barely whisked off the bat of Emily Ritchie for the second out. Boy, that is a big first pitch out in that at-bat. Brings up Hannah Smith. She takes the first pitch, and that's a sinking fastball below the zone for ball one. So Stewart at third, Smith at the dish. Those the two PBC all-conference selections on the offensive side for Flagler this year.
Yeah, big key for Flagler is, can Hannah Smith find a spark again when she's up to bat? She's a two-time PBC Freshman of the Week, established herself as one of the best young batters in the Peach Belt Conference, but she went cold during that conference tournament. If she could return to that regular season form, Saints are going to be in good shape.
She gets ahead in the count here, 2 balls and a strike. In total on the season, Smith is hitting .351. Only 3 hits and 14 at-bats against the Nighthawks this year, though. A 4th hit would be the biggest of the season thus far. She's in a good hitter's count to do so. 3 balls and a strike. Stewart has plenty of speed over there at third. She should score on anything that drops in play. As she'll obviously be gone on contact.
Now, if anybody's able to climb back into a game, it's going to be Flagler with their home run ability this season. 9th most in the country with their 76.
The 3-2. Foul over towards third base. Yeah, that 76 mark, second in the Peach Belt. Only behind Columbus State, who hit quite a few in the weekend that Flagler wasn't playing. So Columbus State has a 3-game lead on the amount of home runs. Denton back on the rubber one more time for the payoff. And fouled. The only other at-bat this long so far in the game for Flagler came from Emily Ritchie back in the first when she worked a full count walk. Smith is going to see 8 pitches here. Stewart itching to come home at third and get the goose egg off the board for Flagler. The 3-2 is strike 3. Backwards K for Tybee Denton. She gets out of the jam, and Flagler is left scoreless for the 3rd inning. We're on to the bottom half of the 3rd. Nighthawks will bat. They hold a 2-0 lead, looking to add to it after this on the Nighthawks Sports Network.
Number 32, Kyle Hornsby. Inside the 30. Touchdown. Michaela burns it. An incredible finish by Holmes.
The NCAA and its member schools offer nearly 500,000 college athletes a path to go pro in something other than sports. Learn more at ncaa.org.
2-1.
2, 3, and 4 hitters. Blair, and Parker. Sydney and Georgia, that is, the 2 Blairs to lead things off. Mallory Parker, the center fielder, the 3rd scheduled hitter. With a now 2-0 lead for UNG. Flagler has stranded a single base runner in all 3 innings so far. They've only got 1 hit. And you could argue it could have been caught, or maybe should have been, by either Katie Ward or Madison Simmons on the triple from Sydney Stewart. First pitch to Sydney Blair, inside part of the plate for strike 1. Last time Sydney was up, it was with Ward in front of her over at first base, so she dropped down a sac bunt to move the runner over. Didn't end up working as Ward got stranded at third to end the frame.
Yeah, key for Flagler in this matchup is just dialing in that pitching and keeping the Nighthawks at bay. We saw in that PBC tournament, North Georgia put 9 runs up on them both times.
Blair slaps one to the right side, where it's scooped up by Cass Crump for the first out. Sydney Blair has not played up to her standards in the postseason so far. Just 2 hits and 15 tries. been a lot of those, a lot of contact outs. Meanwhile, the other Blair, Georgia that is, dominating in the postseason, a .474 average, pair of home runs, 6 RBIs. Doing what she's done primarily all season long.
Yeah, Georgia Blair went on that tournament tear last weekend with a 6 runs scored, 6 RBIs, couple of home runs. Another veteran leader on this squad that's been huge for North Georgia this late into the season.
One out into left. That one's deep. That one's up. It is down off the base of the wall. Blair running for second. She slides in there safely. Georgia Blair crushes a double to left field. That's the first extra base hit for the Nighthawks today. It comes with 1 out in the third.
Yeah, and that's big to get your best batter going here. Have a 2-0 lead, but no lead is safe in the regional tournament, and puts a runner in scoring position for another big bat in Mallory Parker.
Parker lifts one left center, more like left field, and that's where Kyla Kinnear makes the catch. There's not a ton of wind being indicated by the flags, but the way all these balls are flying, they're pushing heavily to left field. Kinnear was able to grab that one. We saw one obviously earlier that neither Kinnear or Maceda could get. So now here's Madison Simmons. With 2 down, she takes ball 1.
And Simmons, a player built for tournament softball, was very consistent back in 2022 in that Southeast Regional.
She swings, and it's a high fly ball out into left. This one's also deep. This one's also back, and it's out of here. Madison Simmons detonates, and it's 4-0 Nighthawks.
And it's been these veteran leaders on this North Georgia squad making big plays in these big moments, and Simmons, built for regional softball tournament action, puts the Nighthawks up 4-0.
Again, she made the mistake by not tagging on Grayson Perry's fly out in the second. She still eventually came around to score, but there was some anger in that swing, it seemed like, and a little bit of redemption. And she powered that ball out of here to the terrace in left field here at Haynes and Carolyn Hill Stadium.
Yeah, Madison Simmons didn't get a ton of run in last year's regional tournament. But once it comes to May softball, she's willing to step up to the plate and deliver for North Georgia. Like we said, in 2022, made some big plays, and here in her final season as a Nighthawk, makes a big one there.
Brumby popped up to third. That is the third out. Madison Simmons, a 2-run blast, her second of the season, doubles the lead. It's North Georgia 4, Flagler nothing, as we are on to the 4th inning here in the Nighthawk Sports Network from the 2024 Southeast Regional Tournament.
Two, one.
The Big Bats make a showing in the third for the Nighthawks. Georgia Blair absolutely laces a double to left field. Then Madison Simmons, 2 batters later, one-ups her teammate with a bomb. Her second home run of the year, first home run of this game for either side, and it's 4-0 North Georgia as we are ready to start the 4th inning. Cass Crump, Kyla Kinnear, and Mackenzie Smith will bat for the Saints. Crump showing bunt, but pulling it back. Blair wondering how that wasn't a strike as she turns back to Mike Lett. It is ball one.
We've seen Flagler go down a couple times in the PBC tournament. There was their home runs that helped them climb back into some games. Going to need it here.
It's a team that has proven their power from the regular season into the postseason. We talked about it during the PBC tournament. Within the Peach Belt Conference, this is one of the larger parks, Haynes and Carolyn Hill Stadium, as far as distance and height of the wall, leading to home runs. There's a line drive single into center off the bat of Crump. Second hit in just 4 at-bats for Flagler. They're just their second hit of the game.
And North Georgia knows, once it comes to May softball, no lead is safe. Up 4-0, but we saw just last weekend gave up that 4-0 lead in the top of the 7th to Columbus State, and they're not satisfied.
Popped up left side. Riley Moody, the shortstop, calling everyone off as she makes the catch. A lot of that so far today. Base runner, or maybe something positive for Flagler, and it seems like the next at bat is a quick one and an out. There's a 2-pitch out in the first inning after the walk. A 2-pitch pop out in the second inning after a walk. A 1-pitch pop out after the triple last inning. And here, 1 pitch and 1 out on the pop out to short from Kyla Kinnear after the leadoff single. Now Mackenzie Smith in a 1-0 count digs in. Just slicing at that one. Gets over the awning.
It's great to see Tybee, taking care of these batters, on the first pitch, getting some routine plays, because we saw in that top of the 7th inning against Columbus State, she came into the game, only needed 1 out to secure the tournament championship, and on her first pitch led up that 3-run bomb.
The 1-1 skied to the right side, almost right to where Mary Seal Brumby was. She only has to drift a few feet into foul territory for the catch. Leadoff single and 2 quick outs for Tybee Denton. 1 out left, and it'll be Riley Konowalchuk now batting to try to keep the frame alive for Flagler. Ball outside. Blair held the glove for a moment, asking if it was down as Mike Lett nods his head yes. The 1-0 upstairs.
And Riley Konowalchuk was the only Flagler player to record a hit in each of the Saints PBC tournament games. On a 5-game hitting streak right now. If she can extend that to 6, it's going to be the longest streak of her Flagler career.
Konowalchuk, a junior, a foreigner, native of Canada from Winnipeg. Back pick to first from Blair, not in time. Did transfer into Flagler from Daytona State. From Winnipeg, Canada, all the way to Florida. It's got to be a pretty stark change of scenery.
That's quite the hike. That's interesting because you usually see a lot of these Peach Belt Conference schools get a lot of players that are local or around the area. Bring a player all the way from Canada. It's definitely interesting to see. You don't see that very often.
Yeah, I mean, UNG, Georgia Southwestern, Georgia College, it's a lot of GA on that roster. Flagler's got a lot of FLA. We see USC Aiken, Lander, they've got a lot of South Carolina people, USC Beaufort as well, which is obviously understandable. So someone like Konowalchuk all the way from Winnipeg certainly stands out. Slicing on the right side, foul, and dropping before anybody can get a glove on it.
She comes over to a Flagler squad that's absolutely turned their season around this year. In just 1 year, doubling their wins almost from last season, made it even farther in the PBC tournament than they did this year, returning to the Southeast Regional for the first time in over 10 years.
Payoff. That one's fair. Denton will field, and she throws to first in time. Another runner stranded for the fourth consecutive inning for Flagler. They haven't been able to put it together. Meanwhile, the Nighthawks look to keep it rolling in the fourth. After these words on the Nighthawks Sports Network.
The road to national championships runs through NCAA.com. And whether you follow one college team or all of them, it's never been easier to get the content you want with NCAA.com, the home of college sports.
The Nighthawks have come to life a little bit in the last 2 innings. In total, they've had 4 of their 5 hits come in the second and third innings, and all of their runs as well. It's still Rachel Hester who was the starter for Flagler. She's still in the circle. She's got Grayson Perry, Gracie Mixon, and Riley Moody on the docket in this fourth inning.
We mentioned with Rachel Hester earlier, she hasn't seen the most success against North Georgia this season, but in that Peach Ball Conference tournament, made some big plays, and she's a very, I guess emotional isn't the right word to say, but she shows a lot of emotion, I guess is what I should say. She gets fired up after every strikeout for her team and provides a lot of energy for them.
Wears her heart on her sleeve, as well as her emotions. The 1-0. And that's what you really love to see, because that's what this game is all about. I mean, if you're not showing your emotions, you're showing that you don't care. And if you don't care, then what are you doing here? Perry down to an E on her first strike, swing and a miss. Strike 2 on the outside part of the plate.
Yeah, going to Grayson Perry. Had a breakout season for North Georgia this year. A consistent starter, earning a spot as the DP on that all-conference first team.
She slaps one to short and is out over at first base. 1 up and 1 down for Hester. Yeah, it was Grayson's sister, Maddie, who was a big piece for the Nighthawks in this tournament a year ago. The shortstop for Mike Davenport, leading them to a national championship, second in program history. We're not one to put the cart before the horse, but should the Nighthawks repeat this year, they'd be the first team to do so since California of Pennsylvania. So there's a school in the state of Pennsylvania named California. Since they did it back in 1998, winning in 97 the year before and again in 98. No team has doubled up in back-to-back years in Division II softball. Mixon with a nice sharp single through the left side.
And everything kind of aligned perfectly for North Georgia last year with some seniors and Maddie Perry, like you mentioned, Olivia Sinkfield, Hannah Forehand, with one last shot at a national title, were able to secure it in this season. Got a lot of veterans on this North Georgia squad. Yet again, 10 seniors, a lot of them a part of that national championship run, all of them a part of that national championship roster from last year. And so everything is kind of lining up again, and if anybody's going to go back-to-back, it's going to be the Nighthawks.
Swing and a miss for Moody. There's certainly a lot of worthy candidates, not just across the country, but within this region. That Wingate team, who's the top seed in this region, and Southeast Region 1, a very good team this year. Look elsewhere nationally. South Central is a really good region. West Texas, a very good team. They won the Lone Star Conference there. UT Tyler, Texas Tyler, that is, a team that North Georgia faced on their way to a national championship last year. They're very good again this year. Riley Moody, after her RBI single in the second, is in a 2-2 here after that foul ball. Indy, you look at them and the pitcher they have, one of the best pitchers in the country for them over there, up there in the Midwest. Outside ball 3, Mixon going on the pitch. He is out at second base. What a play by Sydney Stewart. The throw was towards the first base side. She was late getting over to the bag, picked it on a hop and on a half dive, tags Mixon out before she could slide in safely.
That's huge because now that puts 2 outs up on the board and nobody on for Riley Moody, who's in a 2-2 count.
Yeah. And strike 3 called. How about that? Caught stealing at second base, and on the next pitch, the Nighthawks done batting in the 4th. Flagler with some defense providing a little bit of life. They'll bat in the 5th after the break on the Nighthawk Sports Network.
In a world driven by innovation and ambition, it's not just about following the path. It's about creating your unique journey. At Francis Marion, you'll acquire the knowledge and skills you need to create the future you want. And you'll do it all surrounded by a community that's strongly committed to your success and your future. Francis Marion University, South Carolina's premier educational choice.
1.
4 runs on 6 hits. No errors for the Nighthawks. They have left 2 runners on the base paths in this game for Flagler. No runs yet on just 2 hits. They have a pair of errors and have left a runner on base in each inning, so 4 total. Trying to end that trend here in the 5th. Taking the first pitch is Kirsten James in her second at bat. She struck out in the 2nd, her first time up. Following Kirsten will be Maceda, and then the top of the order in Sydney Stewart. That's a nice hit out into left, but directly to Sydney Blair. Well struck off the bat of James, but it's the first out.
We were talking about all the teams that are poised to bring home the national championship this season. Last time Flagler was in the Southeast Regional, they made a statement, made it to the national championship back in 2012, and there's a lot of teams that, you wouldn't be shocked to see them come away with a trophy at the end of the season.
The latest National Fast Pitch Coaches Association rankings came out recently, and the rankings are based on games through May 5th, so they do include the conference championships. And those 5 teams that we mentioned, West Texas, Indy, UT Tyler, Wingate as well, obviously North Georgia in that conversation. Those first 3 happen to be the top 3 in the country. Wasn't actually exactly aware of that. West Texas taking down UT Tyler in the Lone Star Conference Championship. Indy actually lost to, I believe it was Missouri Southwestern in their conference title game. Out into center, Parker doesn't have to move. She stopped those feet a little bit as if she was going to have to move, but really didn't. A straight line out right into center field for the second out off of the bat of Maceda.
And even the teams that we have here, Columbus State making history this year, PBC tournament champs, first time since 2013. They're looking to make history with a bunch of the veterans on their roster. Francis Marion, a top 25 team too.
There's another hardliner, Sydney Stewart with her second hit of the day. Comes on the first pitch during her at bat in the 5th. So Flagler starting to make a little more contact now on Denton. Yeah, so UIndy lost the Great Lakes Valley Championship to Missouri S&T, excuse me. And today, they faced Missouri S&T in the Midwest Regional and dominated them 8-0. So that's about how that goes. Out into right. Same spot as last time where Stewart got a triple, but this one bounces in foul territory. Ward slid, lost the glove, as she couldn't make the catch.
Yeah, it looked like her and Simmons collided there in foul territory. It was going to be a tough play to make for either one of them. Makes the count 1-1.
Pitch up above the zone.
What's interesting is last time Flagler was in the regional tournament, made it to the Super Regional, faced off against North Georgia, who at the time was called North Georgia College and State, beat the Nighthawks, advanced to the Division II National Championships in Louisville, Kentucky.
So it's now 3-1 on Ritchie. Certainly do not want to allow a second two-out base runner if you're Denton. That can spell serious trouble in a 4-run game. To the gap in right. Parker back and now charging. She makes the catch on the run. Big out squarely in the right center field gap. A nice job by Mallory Parker to end the frame. 4.5 innings done. Flagler still with 0. The Nighthawks up to 4. Batting in the 5th here on the Nighthawk Sports Network.
How do you make history? In St. Augustine, Florida, Flagler College stands as a beacon where the lion-hearted can forge new paths. Here, your courage finds its name, and ambition finds its home. Inspired by the visionary Henry Flagler, you don't just learn, you create, innovate, and find where you truly belong. So how do you make history? It starts with you, right here. Flagler College, where history begins.
2-1.
Southeast Regional Tournament. Southeast Region number 2, to be exact. Flagler, North Georgia, Columbus State, Francis Marion, the 4 schools here in Dahlonega, as the Nighthawks are the second-seeded host. Top-seeded Wingate. They're hosting up there in North Carolina at their home facility. They took on their conference opponent in the South Atlantic Conference, Anderson, today. They beat the Trojans 5-0 for a Game 1 win. Lenore Ryan, another SAC team, taking on Lander, PBC member. Lander making its first ever NCAA tournament appearance for their softball program. Believe they had a little bit of rain up there in North Carolina as well. That Wingate game took place at 4 o'clock. Lander and Lenore Ryan scheduled to face each other in 27 minutes here, coming up at 6:30. Katie Ward leading off for the Nighthawks in the 5th. Takes ball outside.
Yeah, I was really surprised to see Wingate not come away with their conference championship. Had a couple of tough games. What was that, an 11-inning game against Lenore Ryan a couple weeks ago?
Lenore Ryan would move on after that 11-inning win to beat Wingate again in another close one, 9-8. That was in the semifinal round, so they got to the SAC championship that way. And then they took down Anderson there. Another extra inning win. They beat the Trojans in Game 1 in 8 innings after a comeback. And then a 3-2. So how about this for Lenore Ryan? Look how far back it goes. Their last 5 wins, check that, 6, all by 1 run. They lost their first South Atlantic Conference game by 2 runs. It's just been close, and closer for Lenore Ryan lately. See if that trend continues in their first NCAA game tonight against Lander as Ward grounds out to third base.
That comes with its pros and its cons because, you'd like to win with a little bit more of a cushion, but it's also showing that you can close out in these tight games.
Hey, at this point, it could be 100. It could be 1. A win means you get to keep playing.
Exactly.
Blair takes a pitch outside. 1 ball and 1 strike for the lefty. If you're just joining us, both teams scoreless in the first. The Nighthawks got 2 rather unconventional runs in the second. Madison Simmons would have been out at the plate had Emily Ritchie not been called for blocking the plate. That was with 1 out in the inning. So Simmons came across as the first run. Mary Seal Brumby came home in the next at-bat on a single. Then the Nighthawks add 2 more in the third. Simmons batting again. She powered her second home run of the season, a 2-run blast to score herself and Georgia Blair. That brings us where we are now, 4-0. Flagler, 3 hits in total in the game, and they've been held in check on the scoreboard. Blair with another ground out. So 2 up and 2 down for Rachel Hester, who is the starter and the current pitcher still in the circle for Catherine Grant and the Saints.
And Flagler has been doing a lot of their damage late over these last handful of games. We saw in the PBC tournament, trying to mount some comebacks against USC Aiken specifically due to the long ball. So they're never out of games. Up 4-0 is North Georgia, but put a couple runners on for Flagler, and all of a sudden things become very, very interesting.
History this season is in North Georgia's favor based on how these first few innings have gone. It's a team that has put up a ton of runs in the middle innings this year, particularly the 3rd and 4th innings. But they scored first today. When they do that, they're 40-5 on the year. And with a 4-0 lead after the 4th inning, they're 41-1 all season this year when leading after 4 innings. The 1 loss to Columbus State 7 days ago. Sorry, just 5 days ago. That was last Saturday. And Georgia Blair, after she powered a double in her last at-bat, Rachel Hester stays away, a 4-pitch walk.
Yeah, it's just so hard to keep the Nighthawks off of base. They're one of the best teams at getting on base in the country. 433 on base percentage, 6th best in Division II. Whether they're adding to their over 500 plus hits or drawing a walk, this team has mastered putting runners on the bags. Typically pays off with runs across the board too.
Mallory Parker looking to make the 2-out walk do some damage, and it didn't matter. 1 pitch and a line out to Smith over at third base. So it's still 4-0. 2 innings left. Flagler's only got 6 outs to work with here in Game 1 of the Southeast Regional in Dahlonega. In the top of the 6th, Flagler are running out of opportunities, but like you've talked about, Robert, this is a team that certainly isn't going to quit and has had success late in games this season. They've got another opportunity here. And again, well, the Nighthawks have seemed a little bit more confident today. It's probably not even as deep as in the back of their minds, but what happened last weekend in the comeback for Columbus State, that just does not happen for this program.
Yeah, it was definitely a very uncharacteristic performance from the Nighthawks last weekend against Columbus State. Like I said, literally 1 out away from securing their 10th straight PBC Tournament Championship. You bring the PBC Pitcher of the Year, Tybee Denton, in to close out that game with 1 out, and then you see Columbus State in the blink of an eye take the lead and then close things out in Game 2 that afternoon.
And I think that may be an overlooked aspect of what happened. It's shock enough that a 9-year PBC Tournament Championship run came to an end, and it came to Columbus State, who the Nighthawks and Cougars have had their share of battles, both with words and with competition over the years. But it came with the final out to be made. So if you're North Georgia, you enter today, and every game the rest of the season, never fully at that confidence of like, okay, we've got this one in the bag, we've won it, until that last out is recorded. Because always you're going to remember in the back of your mind, well, it was just 1 out last time. We only needed 1 last time. And so here, Hannah Smith works a walk. And now things like this, a leadoff walk, start to maybe matter a little bit more, because it didn't seem like much at the time with Columbus State. All of a sudden you realize, wait, they've got an opportunity to tie the game here, and it took 1 pitch for that to happen. So now a leadoff walk could be the start of something more. And all of these thoughts are in the head of Tybee Denton, you have to imagine, in situations like this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to see North Georgia come away with the win, definitely have to plate at least 1 or 2 more runs in that bottom of the 6th inning to make things a little more comfortable for them heading into the top of the 7th, because the home run power of this Saints team is keeping them in games no matter what the score is. Another ball is going to mean a meeting in the circle with the 2 vets in Blair and Denton.
And it's a delicate situation, but part of the advantage, at least this is where my mind went with what happened last weekend with Columbus State's comeback, is that, hey, you lived through it now. Now you've got the experience of you've been there and you've lost that situation. You know what you did wrong. You know what you need to do better. You know what it feels like when you find yourself in a tricky spot moving forward in these playoffs where everything is final, where this could be the last game. You have something to look back on, to lean on, and learn from. So, a walk and a ball in the next pitch. All right, let's talk about it. Let's breathe a little. And maybe that's what that meeting was with Georgia Blair and her pitcher, Tybee Denton. On the ground, Mixon, backhand pick. She'll go to second for the lead runner. Throw to first, not in time as he gets away from Brumby. Now down to second, and the throw from Blair is not in time. Crump gets an extra base. It's not an error because you cannot assume the double play. Nice job by Mixon to get the lead runner, but it just still results in a runner in scoring position anyways.
Yeah, again, another uncharacteristic play from this infield from North Georgia. It's not often that you see balls get away from first base, whether it's Brumby or Mooney out there, and puts a runner in scoring position for Flagler with just 1 out.
So Crump reaches on the fielder's choice and advances to second on the throw. That means it's Kyla Kinnear at the plate. Pops one up, slicing to the right side. Towards the dugout goes Brumby, but it's well over it and foul.
And going back to what you were saying about Columbus State, how eerily similar that was to last year in the regular season when the Cougars came to Haynes and Carolyn Hill, took down the Nighthawks in back-to-back games. And that was actually the last time North Georgia lost back-to-back games. Columbus State's the only team that's done that in the past 2 seasons.
Hard down the line, foul. And when you extend that research into the last decade, they're one of, I believe it's only like 4 or 5 teams to come into Dahlonega and win 2 games against the Nighthawks. It simply is something that does not happen.
But that really served as a turning point last season for the Nighthawks, dropping those games to Columbus State in the regular season. It caught fire after that. And, if you go back and rewatch the documentary that was made about North Georgia softball and their national championship run, you can hear Sophie Mooney talking about during that 38-game winning streak that they were on, they all thought that they were invincible. They thought that they just simply couldn't lose, and Columbus State broke that winning streak last season and kind of proved that the Nighthawks were human, and then after that only lost 4 more games with that coming in the middle of the regular season, and really served as a turning point for them. Coming at a good time, too, during the regular season. You'd rather, find out you're human at that point rather than in the regional or super regional or the national championship. So hopefully this serves as another turning point for them this season. Sucks to lose the PBC Tournament Championship, but they've got their eyes set on a national championship as well.
In the air on the infield for Katie Ward. And the second out as she makes the catch. Kinnear goes down. Crump left over at second with 2 outs. Mackenzie Smith, a walk and a pop out so far today. Huge at bat. Flagler just needing to get something on the board. He'll feel a lot more comfortable heading into the 7th, no matter what the score is. If you've shown you can get something across home plate. They've stranded a runner every inning, looking to avoid that fate yet again. Outside edge for a strike. So, Robert, as someone who was here last year, you talk about that Columbus State win and then how it woke the Nighthawks up, propelled them to a national championship. Obviously, we're only through 5 complete innings in the game following what happened last weekend. But I'm wondering how similar this feels to you, being someone who's around this program, to what that felt like last year in that Columbus State loss. Obviously, it comes later in the season and you lose a championship. But is it a similar emotion and just kind of vibe?
I would say definitely very similar as far as the emotion goes. And, luckily for North Georgia, it's coming in, like we said, the PBC tournament, not during the regional tournament, but definitely very similar feel to those 2 instances last season and this season against the Cougars.
Smith loops it to Riley Moody, and Flagler leaves a runner in scoring position again. Bottom of the 6th, the Nighthawks looking for some insurance runs. They lead it 4-0 on the Nighthawks Sports Network.
I am an NCAA student athlete.
And I pledge to be a champion of unity
on my team, on my campus, and in my community.
I pledge to embrace differences and strive for inclusion and collaboration.
I pledge to stand against racism, hate, and discrimination.
I pledge to strive for love, care, and forgiveness.
I pledge to stand against silence, deceit, and obscurity.
I pledge to strive for dialogue, truth, and understanding.
I pledge to stand against fear and doubt.
I pledge to strive for trust and belief in one another.
I pledge to stand against complacency and stagnancy.
I pledge to strive for change and growth.
I commit to supporting my fellow student athletes in all circumstances that impact them.
I commit to both choosing unity personally and encouraging it for all.
I pledge these things because we are stronger together.
United as one.
Madison Simmons takes a first pitch ball in the bottom of the 6th as the score stands right now. This the last chance for the Nighthawks to add to their lead. Simmons, a contributor to 50% of that lead. Actually more when you add her runs scored. She scored twice and brought home a pair of runs in total of the 4 that North Georgia has today. And there is ball 3 on the outside. Simmons reached in her first appearance on an error in the 2nd before eventually coming home to score. Her second at bat was the big blast in this game, a 2-run shot to left. So 3-1 the count. On the ground, foul over towards third base. That will fill it up.
Yeah, and Coach Davenport's seen a lot of changes to his starting lineup over the course of this season, and Madison Simmons has been one of those changes in the starting lineup. Seen Mariah Wicker start a lot of the season. She struggled a bit recently, and over these last handful of games, it's been Madison Simmons in the starting lineup and over and right.
Slice to right and caught by Kirsten James. It'll be interesting to see how Davenport uses his lineup the rest of the way in this tournament. Obviously, there's an expectation that this team will play more than just a couple games, as they have consistently. That is right through the legs of Cass Crump. An error on the second baseman as Brumby reaches.
And it looks like we're going to have a substitution here, too, to bring Brumby out and probably put Caroline Branch over there on first base.
Well, in a 4-run game with a runner on, Mike Davenport now feels like he's probably within range of the mercy rule and not even risking sending this game to the 7th. So Mariah Wicker comes out of the dugout to pinch run for Brumby. Grayson Perry still the hitter at the plate, as was scheduled.
Well, Mariah Wicker, like we just mentioned, she may have seen her struggles up to bat this season. What hasn't been an issue for her has been her speed when she's been on base. One of the quickest players in the Peach Belt Conference. She's a threat to score from wherever when she's out there.
See if Wicker steals at all. Probably not in this situation. But going back to our point on Mike Davenport, it'll be interesting to see how he uses the lineup moving forward. It's starting to feel, without Jolie Lester and Sophie Mooney and the finality of the season coming up, Perry through the left side for a base hit. Wicker makes the turn around second and heads back to the bag just in time. The throw from Kinnear was closer than it should have been. And now more substitutions. Turning around is Gracie Mixon, and here it is. Sophie Mooney pops out of the dugout and will bat for the Nighthawks. Was literally just about to say it. Feels like with Mooney and Lester being out and how we're now in the elimination stages of this season, feels like there's a little bit of urgency, a little bit of pressure from Davenport that he puts on himself to put these players in the game. You've got an All-American in Sophie Mooney, someone who would have been an All-American candidate in Jolie Lester. Haven't been able to use them. Now we're at the postseason. Does he put them in the lineup? There was rumors that maybe Sophie Mooney starts today. Is she going to play? Well, here's your answer. Sophie Mooney is playing here in the Southeast Regional as she takes strike one on the outside. Pinch hitting for Grayson Perry here in the 6th with 2 on.
And that's a great sight to see, having Sophie Mooney back into this lineup. You know, she's one of the best batters in the country.
Up the middle and possible double play. Mooney out at first. They do turn 2. Just 2 pitches for Sophie Mooney, and she is out. The putout goes 6-4-3. The lead remains 4. Flagler, their last opportunity in Game 1 of the Southeast Regional, coming up after the break on the Nighthawk Sports Network.
To them, the whole world looks like an opportunity, one to be seized, built upon, and made better for their sport and the people around it. To student athletes, every opportunity is a chance to change what could be and show the world what opportunity can do.
1 second and no seconds.
4-0 the lead. Tybee Denton will stay in the circle for this final inning against Flagler. So we'll see how the defense shapes out after some of the changes. It looks like everybody pretty much was just re-entered. Flagler did have a pinch runner last inning as well. It was Reese Snipes coming out of the dugout and running for Hannah Smith. Not expecting Smith to bat in this inning unless Flagler makes a run that they'll need to keep the game alive. Riley Konowalchuk, the 7-hole hitter, bats first and takes strike 1.
This is a big spot here for Tybee Denton, trying to close this game out against Flagler. And like I said, last time we saw her in this situation had an uncharacteristic performance. It's going to be big for her if she's able to keep Flagler off the scoreboard and secure this Game 1 win in this Southeast Regional for the Nighthawks.
Konowalchuk today 0 for 2. A fly out and a ground out. And the 1-1 she takes inside right near the knees, but too far in on the plate.
Yeah, like you said, Brennan, got the 7, 8, 9 batters guaranteed to see the plate, barring a substitution. And what's going to be big for Flagler is can they bring Sydney Stewart, their leadoff batter, giving her one more chance.
If they get to Sydney Stewart, that means that they'll have at least put one runner on base. So with her at the plate, that could be a possible situation where Flagler could cut the deficit in half. Stewart, 9 home runs on the year. Konowalchuk right side and over the glove of Katie Ward. Bounced off the top of the leather, and that's exactly what Flagler needed, a leadoff knock.
Like we've said time and time again, Flagler down but never out of any game until the final out is made. With this team's power up to bat, they're threatening still to make things interesting, as we may have a pinch runner here for the Saints as well.
We sure are. It is going to be 0-0 Olivia Burns, freshman out of Pendleton, Indiana, taking the place of Konowalchuk.
Now running for the Saints, 0-0 Olivia Burns.
James ready. First pitch popped up. Georgia Blair didn't see it at first. Didn't matter because it just snuck over the screen. How about this test for Tybee Denton? Today has not been easy for her. 4 strikeouts, 3 walks. She's only given up 4 hits so far. But after what happened last weekend, she's got to find a way to get out of this 7th inning after a leadoff knock now. And here's a good ground ball. Mixon will take it from her pitcher, and they make the out at first base. Kirsten James, a good hustle down the line. Burns, whose run at this moment does not matter, did advance the scoring position over at second.
And that's a classic Gracie Mixon play, as you know, there are very few plays that she is unable to make. You know, she's on top of every ball that stays in the infield that comes her way to third base and gets a big first out here for the Nighthawks.
5-3 the putout. And there's one down now for Paige Maceda. She's also 0 for 2. Before Riley Konowalchuk's knock to start this inning, the bottom 3 in the Flagler order were a combined 0 for 6. Maceda takes strike 2. Nope, ball 1. Thought I heard a huh. What would be your strike call if you were an umpire?
Oh, man, you know, I've thought about that. I think, oh, man, I don't know what my strike call would be, but there would definitely be some dramatics.
Would you get theatrical with the ring up?
With the strikeout, I think definitely.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the lawnmower, where you stick the left arm out and you pull the right one back as you step, the little step back lawnmower. That's a good one.
Got to bring in one of the Savannah Banana umps.
Oh, geez.
They do quite the stand-up job behind the plate.
They do a full dance routine before you find out if you're out or not.
This right here, like you said, Brendan, a huge test for Tybee Denton going up against Maceda, who has had probably the most success during the Peach Bell Conference tournament coming into this matchup, and Smith on deck, who's seen the most success today.
Denton, a nice pick right at the circle on the ground ball from Maceda. 2 down, and Flagler's last chance is their best hitter, their veteran and leader, Sydney Stewart. Stewart hitting .380 on the season. PBC All-Conference first team this year. This is to short. Moody fields it, throws over to first, and Sydney Stewart is out. Nighthawks win. Flagler upset with the call. They thought Stewart beat out the play at the bag to keep their hopes alive. But that's loss number 1 for the Saints and win number 1 for the Nighthawks.
Yeah.
North Georgia will play at 12 tomorrow against the winner of our next game, which is scheduled to come up here at 7:30 in about an hour. Flagler is going to play in the second game tomorrow at 2:30. Robert, for North Georgia, just a good feeling to get out of that game, maintain your lead. They don't give up any runs. Like we said, it wasn't easy for Tybee Denton, but they found a way out of it.
Absolutely. A big bounce-back performance from them after, a not-so-great performance from them in the Peach Ball Conference Tournament Championship against Columbus State. Come back out here against a Flagler squad that they've seen a lot of success against this season, a lot of success in big moments in the Peach Ball Conference Tournament, and they do it again here in the regional as they move on to the winner's bracket here in Dahlonega.
So the Nighthawks will either face third-seeded Francis Marion or sixth-seeded Columbus State. Robert DiClemente and Devin Kupko will have that call for you in about an hour. Thank you so much for joining us here on Game 1, Day 1 of the 2024 Southeast Regional Softball Tournament. I'm Brendan Shabath. We will see you on the other side in about 60 minutes here on the Nighthawks Sports Network. Nighthawks take down Flagler 4-0 in the first.